Welcome back to Rise and Grind. Happy Monday. I hope you are off to an amazing start to your week. We got some really cool stuff we're about to talk and dive into here today. How was your weekend?
It was really nice. How was yours?
Good. It was a great weekend. Great weekend. Ready to get after it. First and foremost, I'm going to say something that I think is going to blow most people's minds. So right now, we keep talking about AI, right? So we know the inefficiencies AI has right now when it comes to copywriting and graphics and all this other stuff. It's not what everybody thought it was going to be, at least not yet. Humans are outperforming it by so much at this current time. Now, with that said, there was something released that we just saw, and I'm gonna pop the video up in a second for you to watch. But the AI now has the capability to access your Wi-Fi router.
Oh no.
And based on the Wi-Fi router, it can tell where you are in your home because you're holding your devices and essentially what you're doing based on the size of the home and whatever else. Because you have to remember, with Wi-Fi, it puts off signals based on how far you are from the router, right?
Gosh.
So essentially, they showed a video of 3 people in a house or in an office, better yet, we'll put it up in a second. And one is on a phone, standing, one is on a laptop, sitting, and there's somebody else sitting next to that person. And in a nutshell, it asked AI where it thought they were in the house and and essentially wherever. And so they took a picture of the people where they were, and then AI showed the visualization of where they thought they were, and it was almost the same identically.
Why does AI need to know that? That's what I want to know.
So they know where you are in your house now.
Why?
So who knows?
That's
why?
Scary.
Yeah.
I could see using AI to learn things about human behavior to help us make products that fit them better or market to you better. We don't need to know where you're sitting in your house. I don't need to know where you're sitting in your. I feel like that's crosses the line a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Listen. At the end of the day, I agree. It's weird. It's what's the purpose of that? I remember when the TVs would come out, and the first versions of smart TVs that had the cameras on it, so you can conference and stuff. And people are like, oh, they're watching you and shit. And I'm sure they are, right?
True.
But at the end of the day, it's now everybody that we know has a Wi-Fi router. There's not one person that we know that does not have a Wi-Fi router besides Rob. I think he's the only one, right? But when you really think about it, at the end of the day, the crazy part is now it will have access to know where you are in your home.
That's so
obviously,
interesting.
depending upon the tech and whatever else you're using. So AI can predict and see where you are in your home. So let's show this video real quick. It's gonna blow your mind. Check this out.
Can we go from Wi-Fi radio signals, sort of like the Wi-Fi routers in your house, they're bouncing off radio signals that work sort of like sonar. Can you go from that to where human beings are to images? So what they did is they had a camera looking at a space with people in it. That's sort of like coming in from one eye. The other eye is the radio signals, so sonar from the Wi-Fi router. And they just learned to predict, this is where the human beings are.
Isn't that insane?
That's crazy.
How freaking crazy is that?
I don't know how I feel about that.
That literally blew my mind when I first saw it. But again, it's I think about it this way. Tech, big data, big tech, they want to know details about everything. So when you think about it, I remember when they realized on the iPhone, people were like, how cool is that when the iPhone started suggesting where you were going next on your maps?
Yeah.
And it's oh, you're going to work, it's 7 minutes away, right? And it's oh, how cool is that? It knows where I'm going. And then eventually when people release hey, it's following you around everywhere you go and now knows your daily patterns and what you do all the time. And it's its job to know what you're doing.
Right.
So now your phone knows everything you do, which means that Apple knows everything you do. Certain third-party data things know what you're doing. So at the end of the day, we have to remember that this has already been happening.
That's true.
Now
In different
AI,
ways, yeah.
AI is just going to be able to visualize the living shit out of it and know where you are in your home, your office, this, that, whatever. So in theory, if on our router, right, if we had some sort of thing with AI in it that was tracking this, it would show you, me, both clearly sitting because where the waves are hitting, right?
Yeah.
And then him standing because he has a phone in his pocket and based on where the phone is.
That's crazy.
And so it's so crazy that it can visualize all of that, right? He just moved, it literally on the screen it shows them moving around.
I have a question. What happens if I leave my phone in the other room, but I bring another device with me? Does it pick up on both?
As long as it has Wi-Fi.
Wow, interesting.
So it'll show your device down and then your laptop. And it depends because it can tell activity based on, are you doing something? Are you typing? Is there internet required? Are you submitting things? Are you refreshing a page?
Oh my
If your
gosh.
phone is just sitting there, it's going to assume that you're not using it.
Right.
So nonetheless, mind-blowing, but again, these are the types of advancements that people, when you think about AI, people are not thinking about, right?
Right.
And so when this guy said this, everybody in this audience, as you just saw, was like, what? Like your Wi-Fi, like AI is able to know where you are based on you having Wi-Fi. Everybody has Wi-Fi. So ultimately, again, when we think about how we can either leverage AI or like think about what to prepare or how to prepare for things like that, I'm sure there's going to be things that are like AI blockers or whatever. I know there's certain things that jam cell phone like.
I was just thinking of that,
Yeah.
like your credit card, like somebody can like walk by and scan your credit card like
Yeah,
that. So there's
yeah.
wallets that I think it's called RFID or something like that.
Something,
There's
yes,
like a
yes.
blocker in it.
Yes.
I don't know. That's a good point. Like, will homes start to be constructed with
Yeah.
some form of a blocker to block out all of the
Put-
like frequency waves and things like that?
Potentially, and when you think about it too, what's so interesting is that at the end of the day, when you look at, most of the things that we don't even think about, right? So like, I forget which influencer did this, but this influencer has this one device, you plug it in and it blocks like cell radiation, right? Because we all have
Oh my God, that's
cell
cool.
phone and Wi-Fi sort of waves and radioactive waves that are coming towards us at all times, right? Think about it, like everything going on in this room right now, there's things communicating and we're just in the room.
Right.
So there are people that like put stuff in their homes and in their bedrooms and stuff so that there's none of that stuff happening when they're sleeping. And so when you think about what's going on right now with this, like, oh, how can we jam that or how can we stop that? I'm sure they're gonna start creating devices that are like, shut that shit off.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd
Interesting.
invest in that.
Yeah, just
I would
interesting.
definitely invest in
Yeah.
Very interesting. There's been another move towards social and search merging together. Our next trend is Google Business Profiles are now starting to showcase your social media feeds through your Google Business Profile.
Yep.
So this comes after last October, there was an update where you can add your social media profiles as links to your Google Business Profile, and then a user would be able to navigate from Google directly to your social profiles. Now they're starting to show your entire feed, and it's a little section in your Google Business Profile called Social Media Updates, and it'll display the most recent posts from any of the social platforms that you connected. So it's really important, if you did connect this, that you are keeping social media up to date, but you're
Right.
also keeping your Google Business Profile up to date, because now more than ever, somebody is going to try to Google your industry or Google something pertaining to your business. They'll find you, and now they can go through your social media directly on a search channel. They don't have to actually go over to Instagram. So
Right.
I mean, all the information is right there for the user. You have to keep it updated. Or keep it relevant, keep it trendy, right? Play around with hooks, because if you do want somebody to go over to your social media profile, how do you get them from search to
Right.
social?
Yeah.
Yep.
And the merge of all the data is incredible. Obviously, with search engines, there's gazillions and gazillions of things that are on them.
Right.
But like when you look at actually how much people like post so regularly on all these platforms, gazillions of times a day, to have that data now on search engines is just nuts.
Right. Yeah, I agree. There's so many social and search mergers happening right now that it's kind of becoming the norm, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to, so one of the things that we talk about here so often, and we had some content, and we had a recently, we had an event that that I spoke at, and we're talking about personal branding, right? And a lot of people out there hear about these college athletes and the NIL deals, so it's name, image, and likeliness, and most people that hear about that, they're like, wow, that's crazy that that person got this opportunity, and and now is making multi-million dollars as a college athlete, right? Where before that, like most college athletes that were really good were broke all through college because they technically got scholarships, but it paid for like their housing, it paid for this, paid for that. It didn't. There was no abundance. So now we live in a world where the NIL deals are literally shooting people, to the moon
Right.
with making crazy money in college, right? And so at the end of the day, when I talk about personal branding, so many people are not investing in their own image online. So many people are not taking the time to build their own Instagram following, their own LinkedIn following, and creating subject matter expertise type of content. Now, where I want to dive into here is building a personal brand is not just about, a personal brand in your professional setting though, where, again, it's not just about like, oh, I want to post things that I feel like are relevant or I think it's corny, because most people are private or they don't like to post content or whatever. They like to keep their feed, a certain way. The biggest thing you're doing by doing that is hurting yourself, because when you think about it, if you're looking for a job and a recruiter is looking you up, right? And they go to Instagram or they go to Facebook, everybody looks at all that stuff. Employers look at all that stuff now, right? When they're going and doing those searches, if everything's blocked, if your private profiles on Instagram and this and that, or if you just post regular things about your family and normal stuff, okay, that's kind of normal, right? But if people go to your social media and they looked at your LinkedIn as an example, and they saw you posting thought leader type content or content about your industry, content about your expertise, and you're constantly talking about it and like thinking about it. And now they go, okay, wow, like they have a pretty decent resume or a great resume. They're constantly talking about this stuff on LinkedIn and building content around it. This person cares about this, and it's going to give you that leg up. And we shared some examples of people who have gotten jobs. I personally know, a recruiter friend who was not in the recruiting industry, but had a great LinkedIn profile, was constantly talking about this and about getting into the industry, really excited about it. And she wound up getting a job over somebody who had over 7 years of experience.
Wow.
Because they saw that this person on LinkedIn was like a recruiter and like an influencer in the recruiting space, when realistically, while she was searching for jobs, she started posting things, being curious, whatever. And that recruiter for that major company saw it and hired her over somebody else because she had like 15,000 LinkedIn followers, plus was always creating good content around recruiting and wanting to learn more and to be in the community. And my point is, like, that's like an NIL deal, right? Like, she literally, because of her name and what she's built up on her brand on LinkedIn, she got that job. So there's so many times where we're out there and people are like, I want a better job or I want more clients or whatever the case is, right? Like, and we're not posting great content that speaks to the character that we're supposed to be playing, right? As a business owner, as a professional, whatever the case may be, right? And so we have to start thinking about your brand as a portfolio for those types of things, especially if you're in the market to get new clients or you're searching for a new job.
Right.
Like, people are looking at your brand for these things, and if they don't see that stuff, they're walking away or they're just gonna say, okay, there's nothing that stands out here. I think it's a big deal when you put effort into that. So I'm gonna challenge anybody watching this right now to take the time, look at your LinkedIn, look at your social platforms. If you were a recruiter or if you were a prospective client and I looked at, all of your channels, would I be impressed, or would I say, they don't really know what they're doing, or this is not really relevant to their industry, or so I'm not excited about it, or would I, right? So think about it that way, because again, it's either gonna give you more opportunities or it's not. So stop hurting yourself and get into it. These athletes around the world we're seeing make these crazy NIL deals. There's no reason why you can't.
Right.
And again, just through my own experience through Adapting Social, obviously when I first started AS at a time where there was not like Facebook for Business and any of these things, Instagram was not around and there was none of that stuff. And I remember, like, at the time, luckily, right, without even knowing it at that time, I was posting about like the stuff I'm doing and telling people on Facebook and MySpace, which is funny as shit, about what I'm doing. And so from that point all the way to today, right, almost 15 plus years later, I still get people come to me because they see the stuff that I'm posting about it, and they only knew because they saw me do it 10 years ago or 12 years ago or 13 years ago, and they still follow my journey. So if you're hiding yourself, I know it's more relevant to salespeople, but it's like, don't be a secret agent, right? Like, most people do not know what the fuck you actually do, and that's the craziest part, and that's the saddest part to me personally. Some people are so quiet that nobody knows what the hell you do. And most people in your network need what you serve, need the things that you serve, but they don't know it because you're not talking about it enough, right? So bottom line is, stop hiding yourself, get out there, let people know what you're doing so that you can either attract better clients and new clients, as well as potentially another opportunity.
That's a great point, very great point. All right, the next trend that we have is the update on the TikTok ban, which has been such a popular topic this past week, actually for the past few weeks. And there's two sides to the coin, really. I mean, there's some people who are thinking, it's really concerning that China has all of this access to US data, but then there's others who are really concerned that banning the app is going to really hurt creators. The TikTok app for creators, e-com. It fueled the economy last year by 23 billion, which is crazy. So when you get rid of TikTok, are we also getting rid of the potential for businesses to make that money or creators to make that money?
Right.
Alternatively, there were a few people that are saying if you get rid of TikTok, you're just going to push people over to Meta, to Instagram and Facebook. And is that any better? Is that the same thing?
Well, it's American data.
Which we've had
To
the
the
same
government.
issues, though, in the past with other countries gaining
Yeah.
access to our data. So it's like,
Well, no.
you know,
The difference is though is that yes, other countries have advertisers that have been able to get in and get data, but the big issue with the government right now is the fact that they don't like that this company in Asia
Yeah.
has the capability to grab data and give it to the government,
Right,
Because
right.
again, you notice how if you buy things that are from China, on big ass bold letters on no matter what you buy it says made in China. Like their government is so insane with their telling the world that things are from China and their regulations and stuff. So again, based on what the U.S.'s concerns are, is when you think about the new warfare, right? Obviously, we're seeing what's going on in the world, which is crazy. These different countries with war that's happening recently. But the real scary warfare is the virtual warfare that could happen,
Yeah.
right? Which is having data, knowing where people are, knowing where things, when they have so much data points, they can make a better move. So the government's concerned, we don't want them having multi hundreds of millions of our citizens' data
yeah.
to make better decisions on where they are, locations, apps they're using, times of days, blah, blah, blah. But on that point, though, if you guys watch Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary has made an offer to buy TikTok to make it a US-based company. Don't know if that's going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. But the CEO of TikTok is essentially said to the government that they're willing to move the company and all their stuff to be an American company. So all the servers, everything will be in America. But again, right now, the government's gun shy and worried still about what they're truly going to continue to do with that data.
Right.
and
Which
to your-
understandably so. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just what happens to the app and all of the creators on it as well. It's a big impact. If somebody does end up buying the app out, then that's great. Everything continues.
Right. But
as
to
usual.
your point, it's so interesting when you think about it. I remember somebody asked me this, I don't know who asked me, but back in the day when I was early phase with Adapting Social, somebody asked me, they're like, so, what happens if, Facebook just shuts off, right? Because at the time, that's when I was early in building the company. And I'm like, Facebook can't shut off, whatever. And it's when you think about it, right? And obviously, decade, over a decade plus later, it didn't, right? It's still moving. It's still obviously part of our business.
Yeah.
But now, to your point, there are people who TikTok made a bunch of people influencers.
Right.
And so those influencers typically have 250, Tyler Sargent, right? He has 250,000 followers on TikTok for his flipping homes thing, right?
Yep.
On Instagram, he has 2. Total chooch.
Yeah. Totally.
On Instagram, right? Sorry,
Well,
Ty.
it's a difference.
But-
If you spend your time building yourself up on TikTok, not many people spend their time building themselves on the other platforms, and that's
Yeah.
where they make a mistake.
No, but additionally though, the people rode the TikTok algorithm wave.
Yeah.
At that time, because he
Yep.
did this in the beginning.
Right.
So he just rode the wave, grew it, because now it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
You still can, but it's harder.
Right.
He did it at the right freaking time. Anyway, point being is that the bottom line is if you try to do it on Facebook and Instagram, it's nearly impossible with their algorithms. The reach is so shit. So the difference is, back to your point though, is these people who are making some decent money on TikTok, if they move that away, then boom, there goes their paycheck.
Right.
In theory, right? So to your point, it's whoa, what happens to the content creators? That is a good point, because now it's the first time, if it does happen, it's the first time ever where a social platform gets taken away, and we see physically, wow, that can happen. And you know what? Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the social, LinkedIn, they're just companies.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, even though we look at it NJ Transit, right? The government runs this no matter what, this train's not going nowhere. I mean, these are companies.
Yeah.
These are not government, public government things.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's one of those weird things where it's it can get taken away. And if it did, I would understand, if you were in the position of the government seeing data extracted from the citizens in your country, it's a violation. You know,
Yeah, I would do
in
the same
so many
thing.
ways.
I would definitely.
So
and there's
it's like-
probably things that are happening that we don't even really
Totally,
know about,
totally,
right?
yeah.
That makes it a bigger risk, but it is crazy.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to a friend this weekend because we were talking about the TikTok Photos app, which is also coming out, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that is very similar to how Instagram started early
Yeah.
on. And are they just going to release a different app, sell TikTok, right?
Yep.
And then build up TikTok Photos to be the same exact
Yeah.
thing? There's so many alternatives to the situation that it's really interesting to see where we're going to go from here.
What was the first picture you ever posted on Instagram? You remember?
I don't remember.
Should we pop it up on the screen? It's about, you know what? No.
I don't know what it would be.
It's a brunette Megan, probably.
It might be. Yeah.
But nonetheless, so, you know, again, we're riding this AI wave, we're riding this TikTok current scenario. And back to, you know, again, OpenAI. Last Monday, we showed you, we showed you Sora, right, through ChatGPT. And it's just absolutely bananas what, you know, that world can do. That's like super stuff that's not released yet, obviously.
Right.
So, like, we're going to keep following and riding these trends. But yeah, so guys, happy Monday. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next Monday. Meg's gonna leave us with a little quote of the day. A little quote of the day, Meg.
Quote of the day. Wow, you caught me off guard with this one.
Rob loves it. Rob is so stoked. Hold on.
Shoot. Okay, what is my quote
This
of
dude
the
is
day?
he gets a fucking high. He gets high.
It's so funny because I
when
feel
he gets
like
to watch me
I
use
think
people.
about such good motivation throughout the week, and I'm like, oh, this would be so good. And then you put me on the spot, and you're like, here's a quote of the day, and I forgot the English language. Like every quote that I could possibly think of just scooted right out of my head.
Yep, that's
Live,
her
laugh,
go-to.
love.
That's her go-to.
Live, laugh, love.
got this.
Every
Pull-
day is a fresh start. So if you had a bad day yesterday, today is a new one. If you have a bad day today, tomorrow is a new one. And you can decide to change your day at any moment. You don't have to live in the world that you're or the story that you're currently living in.
Oh,
Monday.
Monday. That was with a migraine too, y'all.
That was with a migraine.
That was a
too.
migraine,
I don't-
too.
Yeah, exactly. Having a shitty morning because of a migraine, I could change a little
You change your
water, a
tune.
little caffeine. We'll be
Yeah.
better in no time.
You know, I want to add to that, as I always do. Like, one of the things though I think that's really important is that visual, that understanding is so deep. I mean, I know obviously you just came up with that and stuff, and I thought it was great. Like, but what you have to realize out there is it's really true. Like, I heard this the other day on a podcast that I was on with a huge investment banker. It's super successful, and essentially he said everything seems worse than it is. And that was his quote for my podcast, and I was like, whoa. I was like, what do you, elaborate. And he's just like, you know, he grew up in India, in a third world country, a part of India where there was no electric. And now he's this massive, like, super successful, you know, investment banker. You know, and long story short, like, he's like, at those times and going through any difficulties in my life, I always looked at it like I was in the worst possible scenario, like it was the end. And when I look back, it really was never that bad. You know, so to your point, right, tomorrow, right, it's almost like that, this too shall pass, right? And again, like to your point, you have the ability to change that mindset in knowing that tomorrow's a fresh day, you know, and it might be tough, but you got to keep going. You got to keep going.
Yeah.
So happy Monday, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next Monday.